Well, hi folks, I'm just going to do this short video just as a bit of response to a couple of people who've asked me how do you store your onions, shallots and garlic and things like that over winter, because they've had problems with them going mouldy and sprouting and all sorts of things like that. So basically the first thing I would suggest is that you do is, once you've harvested your shallots, I mean these have been up since July time, is instead of, a lot of people seem to just chop them off straight away at the top. So what I do, I'll leave all the leaves on and I'll dry them like that, because if you chop the tops off it leaves a big gash which is open to the main bulb, which then botrytis and mould spores can get in, and that's when you get the problems later. So they actually get in, but then they only start to go mouldy later in storage. So like I say, harvesting and drying with all the leaves on for me, and then once they're really dry then you can pull them off or cut them off, and then you should be left with decent dry bulbs. Now if you look, I still leave a little bit of quite a tail on, because it's for the same reason. You can still get botrytis even in storage, so there's no way botrytis is going to get all the way down there and into the onion bulb. But if you chop it off there, it might still be a bit raw there, and there's more chance of that happening. So like I say, I still keep a little bit of top on them all like that. And these have been up for 5 months and they're all still absolutely perfect, still rock hard, solid, no sign of mould, no sprouting or anything. And it's pretty similar with the garlic really. I just harvest them and leave all the tops on and dry them out until the tops have really shrivelled up. It tends to help the bulb dry out as well, because it gets a bit of excess moisture out of the bulb, so it helps it dry. And then hopefully the top should shrivel right down and you can chop it off then. And like I said with the shallots, I still leave just an inch of top, because if there is any botrytis or mould spores floating about, they've got a damn sight less chance of getting down the little hole at the top all the way in than if you actually chop them straight off. And it doesn't matter, you can just chop that off as soon as you're going to chop it up or cook it anyway. So same thing. Onions, I've not got any normal sized onions, I've just got a few of my bigger show ones left, but exactly the same way. For the ones that I'm not going to show, I will just leave a good bit of top on, 6 inches or even the whole thing, and it's just the same old story. Let the whole leaves shrivel up and then you can you can nip them off, and there's, like I said again, so much less chance of any botrytis getting into the onion once the neck's really shriveled up, once it's dried. Because like I said, I've seen people, as soon as they harvest their onions, they'll pull them up and they just chop them off right at the top, so you're left with this raw flesh there which all the nasties can get in, and that'll make them go rotten later. That's why actually platting them is a good idea, because you let them dry out with all the tops on and then you plat them. So therefore there's like a sealed unit, they're all platted and they've still got the tops on, so there's no way that any botrytis can get into the neck, because it's called neck rot, and it gets into the bulb and it just makes them go rotten. So that's about it, I think. Just a bit of a quick video, if that helps anybody who's asked me how I store my stuff. And these are the garlic bulbs I'll be planting this coming year, in probably in about 2 months actually. And I can get these to store for over a year, because these were harvested in late July, August this year, and they will still be edible if there's any left by the same time next year. So they do keep for a year in this sort of conditions. And as for conditions, I would say the ideal place is a dry, frost-free shed or a garage or something like that. I keep them at home because I've got quite a really cold room. This is where I keep the onions in a cool room. Just keep checking through now and again to see if there's any rotten ones, and then if there are, just throw them away and keep them as sort of aerated as can, like in cardboard boxes or trays with holes in, and you should store them alright. So basically, to round up, my top tip is, if you're going to harvest your bulbs, leave as much top on as you can to dry out. Dry them in a greenhouse or a polytunnel or outside under cover until the tops are all shriveled up, and then chop the tops off and just leave an inch or two, it's no big deal, which will stop any rot getting in. Same with garlic and same with your onions and shallots. So that's about it folks, just an odd little tip for you. I hope that helps the people who asked me to do this video. That's about it folks. See you later.